the Museum of Contemporary Art Denver and the Denver Center for the Performing Arts present Mixed Taste, tag team lectures on unrelated topics. And now, introducing tonight's unlikely pairing, Teacher Burnout and Trash Art. Please welcome tonight's host, yours truly, Brenton Zola.
How are you? Good. It's good to see some of you, and it's good to see some of you again. I saw you last week, I remember. Welcome, everyone, to Mixed Taste. My name is Brenton Zola. I'm one of the co-curators alongside Sarah Bai and Charlie Miller. I am a writer and artist who uses the power of story to make the world more human. And Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be hosting this edition of Mixed Taste. This is the 18th year of Mixed Taste, so yeah. Coming up on 2 decades. The event is produced in partnership between the MCA Denver and DCPA's Off Center. So the MCA is Denver's center of creative gravity. They ignite curiosity through art and culture. And DCPA's Off Center creates unexpected theatrical experiences that put the audience at the center of the story. And as I said last week, they are premiering a new show by David Byrne, the former frontman of Talking Heads, called Theater of the Mind, which is starting at the end of August. So it's a combination between theater and mind-blowing science experiments. So it's really gonna mess with your head. It's a really incredible show. Go check it out. So we are so excited to welcome you to the reopened Holiday Theater. It's a really great time. Yes, isn't it beautiful here? So welcome to everyone here, and also welcome to our live audience who will be joining us digitally. Okay, so in order to allow you all in the audience here and viewers digitally to fully participate in Mixed Taste, we have a fun second screen experience. So as you can see on the screen here, there is a QR code. So you can scan that, or there's also one on your program. And so once you scan that QR code, it'll take you to slido.com, which is going to allow you to participate digitally in our event. And if for some reason it doesn't work, you can literally just go to slido.com and put in the code Mixed Taste, one word. So I'll give everyone a chance to scan the QR code, open that up. As you open that up, you should see a web page called Slido, and there will be 3 tabs. It'll have an ideas chat, a poll, and a Q&A, which we'll use at the end of the show. Good. Slido. Okay, so we're gonna take a second to test out our Slido capabilities, and we're gonna have you go to the ideas tab, the ideas chat, and we'd like for you to tell us about your favorite teacher from school, whether that was when you were really little, or maybe a high school or college student, or maybe even grad school. Tell us about your favorite teacher, and hopefully we can, oh great, some of you already, you're on top of it. Bill Van Norden, science teacher, we love that. Coach Hackenberg. Miss Kagan, best French teacher ever, inspired me to teach high school right out of college. That's amazing. So thank you so much for you all sharing. So clearly many of you know what the deal is with Slido, which is fantastic. So it'll be really important to have Slido handy. There'll be a number of times during the evening tonight where you're gonna need to be able to use it. So, all right. Who is here at Mixed Taste for the first time? Raise your hand. Welcome. Give yourselves a hand. That's amazing. And to all you repeat offenders, welcome as well. We love seeing you. Yeah, it's a really amazing time. So for those who don't know, and those who do, Mixed Taste is a mashup series where we bring together 2 experts from entirely different fields to speak on 2 entirely different topics. Then we have a live Q&A to try to find connections at the end. The rules are simple. Each speaker will speak for 20 minutes, and at the first half, no connections are allowed. But at the end, anything goes. So we really encourage you to try to get creative with the connections between the 2 talks. So, between the talks, we're gonna have a little participatory exercise that should be pretty fun. Then at the end, there will be a performance offering to wrap up the evening. Okay, so how about we get started? I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So he was born in Valparaiso, Chile, and grew up in San Diego, California, starting at the age of 4. He received a BA in psychology from Whitman College in Walla Walla, Washington, the place so nice they named it twice. And through Teach for America, he was one of the first 2 DACA-mented, i.e. a recipient of DACA, teachers in the entire nation, in United States history, and completed 9 years in education. Through a TEDx talk and Modus Theater's Undocu America project, he seeks to humanize the narrative of undocumented lives. As an artist, he regularly performs in an a cappella group known as the Storytellers. Please, and also, I said this before, but have your Slido ready because there will be an important part for this talk. So please give a warm and rousing welcome to Mr. Alejandro Fuentes.
All right, we're gonna talk about teacher burnout, and I'm just gonna say, let's get straight to it. He did a beautiful introduction, so I'm not gonna say anything else except that's my face right there. Isn't that cool? And that I am an ex-teacher and ex-administrator of a school, meaning I did my 9 years, and just like many educators across the country, this was the year where I unfortunately had to call it quits. So let's get right to it, and you're gonna need your phones. After that Slido deck that you were just doing, I'm gonna have you all participate alongside me. It's gonna be a visualization slash slightly traumatic for some of you, so this is just a warning. Your job, I'm gonna ask you to decide what to do from a set of choices based on a potentially regular day at school. The choices you make could potentially be cumulative. The names of the individuals who were parts of this story have been changed to safeguard their identities, but I'm letting you know that it could be potentially triggering. I'm repeating that because it's based off of the day in the life of one of my days, so you're welcome. Before we start, I just want to key in on a quote from Brené Brown that says, "Daring greatly is being brave and afraid every minute of the day at the exact same time." And if you are an educator, you know exactly what this quote means. And if you're not an educator, just you'll get to feel it a little bit right here. So it's the beginning of the day. You're at your school. You're setting up for the day. You're gonna be helping students with an important quiz that you're gonna retest at the end of the week. It's a major standard, and you have 30 minutes before your first class. And so you're just making sure that you're ready to go. Kids start coming in. As you're finishing up your morning check-in before your lesson, because you know that building relationships is the foundation to students' desire to learn, you see that one of your students, Maria, is now in tears and surrounded by a few friends who are no longer paying attention to your lesson. Do you? Make your choices quick, because this is how quickly it has to be done. A, call her and her friends out in front of the room and ask, "What's wrong?" B, tell everyone generally that you are available to speak later, but everyone should pay attention to the lesson right now. C, make everyone continue on some task and pull Maria to see if she wants to talk to you or another adult. Or D, do nothing. Kids are emotional. It'll get figured out. Please make your choices now. All right. Hands raised. Who chose A? B? C? D? If you chose C, you agreed with me. That's exactly what I did. I ended up pulling Maria to the side, and she was so emotional that she actually couldn't get the words out. She couldn't explain what it is that was going on. She's all like, "I can talk to you later, but I can't talk to you right now." I'm all like, okay. So I set her off with the school counselor in order to try to figure out what happened next. So today's lesson, as I mentioned before, is essential for the end of week quiz. Once you get Maria in touch with the school counselor, you continue your lesson. She tells you she wants to talk later, but she can't right now. Everything is going pretty smoothly until we get to partner work / study time. You have an uneven number of students, and everyone chooses a partner, and one of your shy students, Peter, ends up once again with no partner? Do you, A, call him out and ask what students he would like to partner up with? B, ask students to repartner, remind students that of the value of inclusivity, and wait for someone to invite him? C, choose pre-selected partners for everyone, clockwork partners, which, by the way, just means that at the beginning of the year, they chose somebody on a sheet, and I would be all like, 10 o'clock, go to your 10 o'clock, go to your 9 o'clock, and that's how they would figure out who their partners were. Or partner up with a student they are not yet able to advocate for themselves. Please make your choices in 3, 2, 1, because choices have to be made quickly while you're a teacher, you know? Who chose A? B, C, D. A lot of you went with C. I actually went with B because at this point in the year, I feel like I've built up enough of a culture that I can ask people to redo it so that this student doesn't feel singled out, just so you get into the mentality of why I chose what I chose. All right, the block ends and you're welcoming in a new class. Within minutes of entering, 2 students who are usually good friends, Leo and Matt, start yelling and cussing at each other about something that happened last block. Leo stands up from his seat and is threatening to beat the hell out of Matt. Do you, A, yell at Matt to sit down and threaten to step in and force him to do it if he does not sit down and calm down? B, send both students out and call administration. C, ask a student to get another admin or adult and start yelling at the students to calm down so you can continue your lesson. Or D, intercept Matt's pathway and ask if he wants to be in a different space for the time being. Please make your choice right now. Who chose A? B, C, D. D, you agreed with me. That's exactly what I did. I was all like, Matt, this is your best friend, man. Like, why, what's going on? I don't know what's going on. Do you want a different space for right now? Because I can see that you're really, really riled up. He starts trying to cuss at me, but I'm all like, bro, I'm not the problem. You're not the one that I have a problem with. Please step out. I promise you we'll get back to it. Anyways, this is what ends up happening, okay? So now it's your off block. It's 10:18, and Leo never made it back from talking to the dean. The reason why he went to the dean was because he felt like he had the most trust with that individual. It wasn't because I sent him to get in trouble, just PS. It has been a hectic morning, so you start thinking about engagement strategies to ensure that the rest of your blocks can focus on the lesson and do well on your end of week quiz. As you're working, you suddenly remember that you had promised to talk to Maria, but you only have 20 minutes before your next block. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to do what you can in order to make sure that the rest of your classes go by well and you can prevent any problem and any issue from happening and you make it as engaging as possible? Or are you going to keep your promise? Do you go find Maria and offer to have a conversation with her? Do you continue working? You have to make sure you're ready for anything. Do you go talk to Leo and see what's going on? Do you give yourself a short break because it's already been a tough morning? A, B, C, or D? A? All right. Oh, thank you. A, B, C, D. All right. The choice that I made was I went to go find Maria. Because Maria had basically said, I do want to talk. Right now is just not the right moment. And she was able to at least get that out. So this is what ended up happening. It's lunchtime. You begin reflecting on your day. Your last block went smoothly, but in your conversation with Maria, you found out that Maria and Leo, who are cousins, lost their grandpa over the weekend. The test doesn't seem that important anymore, but you still have half of the day left. The thing with Maria and Leo, the reason, just so you know, an extra added tidbit of information, the reason why Leo got mad with his friend Matt was because he made an offhanded joke about his grandfather without realizing that his grandfather had already passed. So, do you A, give up on the day? She shed a few tears, give up on placing urgency on this test. Do you continue teaching, compartmentalize? You still have half of the day left. Do you spend your lunch break beating yourself up for not remembering that they were cousins and connecting the dots about this abnormal behavior because you wanted to prioritize this test? Or do you talk to the counseling team to make sure that both we are taken care of and have someone to process with? A, B, C, D. You do all of these. That is exactly what it ended up being, because at the end of the day, you don't necessarily know what it is or how it is that you can't predict every moment. You can't be there for every situation, and you're going to make mistakes along the way. So, everybody, take a breath with me. You just got to experience half of a real day of a real educator in less than 10 minutes. Give yourselves a hand. Look, y'all, this is what the education's current landscape is. Did you know that on average, 44% of teachers quit education within the first 5 years? Raise your hand if you already knew that. We have a few people who know. Here it is by the numbers. So before the pandemic, we're talking about in 2012, 2016, the attrition rate, meaning the number of teachers who were quitting, went from 3.1 to 9.4% from 2012 to 2016. By the time of the pandemic, that went into 18%. 600,000 out of 3.2 million teachers were quitting. Now, at the end of this, we're not even at the end of the pandemic, y'all. That's crazy. Anyways, 19%, 734%, even though the workforce is getting bigger, the percentage of individuals who are still quitting is still on the rise. And the number of individuals who are feeling this thing known as teacher burnout has increased from 2019 to 2020 to 2022 from 34 to 36 to 44%. And I can tell you that those numbers are going to keep increasing. Because it's not an issue that we're just facing here in America. It's an issue that's happening globally. According to a 2016 study, we need 69 million teachers worldwide by the year 2030. But just like in America, the rest of the world is suffering the fact that the demand does not meet the supply. Here in the US, we estimate a demand of 300,000 by the year 2024, with an estimated supply of educators of only being at 100K. Now, I want you to think about what that means, because this is the amount of money that it would take to actually fund those teachers, and that's only if we were paying them $50,000 a year, mind you. 4 trillion, 2 million, and that's just the friggin' estimate. 4 trillion, 2 billion, sorry. I was a math teacher. I should not get that wrong. That's a lot of money, and that's what's needed for 69 million teachers, and I promise you there's a 100% chance that the government will choose to invest somewhere else. Why are educators leaving, you might ask? First off, finances. Teachers make about 19% less than other commensurate professions. Do you understand what that means? This is what it means. It means that in other fields, for the individuals who have built in the same amount of time, spent the same amount of education, put in the same amount of work, they're getting paid 19% less than almost every other field. And it's a financial struggle, especially here in capitalistic America, where often the value is equated to how much money you are worth or how much money you make. The ability to be able to afford your home, to be at peace, to be able to get to a place where you feel comfortable is not happening within the realm of education. Mental health, there's lack of support and often toxic climates because people are more, especially once I got through administration, I started realizing the amount of time that was spent treating education like a business. Lives of students and teachers were based off of whether it would be financially responsible for us to make that decision. And what does that lead to? That leads to you feeling exhausted at the end of the day. The lack of a work-life balance, it leads to physical and mental health, and that takes back seat because you're taking care of other individuals. And it's lovely that there's so many people that have the heart to do that, but that's not how this world should work. And finally, we've seen it in the news, and here in Colorado, it's one of the places that it's highest in terms of percentage across the entire freaking country. A lot of people are just feeling unsafe. The number of school shootings that we've had here in Colorado, the number of school shootings that we've had here in America in comparison to the rest of the world is abysmal. It's atrocious. And sometimes the reason why they're leaving is literally for opportunities. There's not a lot of upward mobility opportunity within the realm of education, unless you literally go off to administrative or work for the district. And the fact is, once you're able to do all of this, these skills are so highly transferable that it's so easy to pick up another job. And if you can pick up another job with a lot less stress, then why wouldn't you? So, what will this mean? This is my prediction. Educators who are left are going to be forced to take on more responsibility. They're going to feel the pressure of having to be a counselor, a therapist, a second parent, a teacher for all of these students, a connector. People are going to be forced to take in educational roles. Now, I don't know if you've heard about this, but in Florida, what they did, because they have not many people are actually going into education, they actually hired vets and their spouses with no teaching experience to come in this upcoming school year. Like they made an executive decision. And this is not to I would never trash on vets, but the amount of thinking and on-the-minute decisions that you have to make on every single moment of every single day for people who are already probably traumatized due to whatever experience they've had in war, those two things just don't match very well. And what's it going to lead to? More educators quitting. So, what's my resolution? I think we should just burn everything down. And by that I mean, here are my potential solutions. And the reason why I'm saying to burn it down is because right now, if you don't know, every educational sector is being treated like a business because we have been forced and thrust upon to make it that way. But there's other alternatives. You could give teachers time for planning and time for commiseration. That needs to be embedded within the school day because you need both. You need time in order to plan for all your lessons, but also to talk about the day-to-day and honestly talk a little crap about everything that's happening within the school day, because with like-minded people, you can aim to get towards actual solutions. I also think that you should give administrators the resources they need. And by that I mean tools, I mean money, I mean the time that they need in order to make schools function. And here's one thing that and it's hard to fit within the hours of the day, but if we had more transparency between staff, it would make it so that people, even if they are having to do something that they don't necessarily agree with, they can at least understand where it came from. I always used to, as a teacher, I used to look at my administrators and be all like, what are y'all doing? Literally, we presented this to you all at least 3 to 4 times in very many different ways. Are you doing anything? And then so once I got to administration, I realized A, the red tape that I was coming across, B, the fact that even if I wanted to mobilize, we were limited in resources or people or organizations that could come and help. So it goes beyond the context of what an administrator is able to do. And if an administrator is able to communicate that within the context of their staff, it would just lead for a more, a better culture within the context of a school. I don't have much time left, so I'm going to just zoom through this. Finally, funding. Obviously, we need to get paid more. Big yes, for real. Please. Because the money that we get paid not only should go towards the teachers, but it also should go towards like building positive culture through the means of field trips and all of these things. And my last solution is Florida, but better. Meaning what I was alluding to before, where they're like hiring vets and all this stuff. I think that what should happen is that every single individual that becomes an adult should spend 1 to 2 years either teaching or helping a teacher, as a means of getting into the world that we're in. Because it allows you to build empathy with the individuals who are in front of your students all the time. And who knows, maybe you would find a lot of people who end up loving what this is all about. So, very quickly, what's happening worldwide? The best education in the world is in Finland, Denmark, and South Korea. And what are they doing? They have ECE as a way of playing imagination. They have it for free, and they have free meals. There's no FRL. Everybody is expected to be fed. The instructional days are spread throughout the year, and there's no standardized tasting. There's accessibility through resources, and they have comparable pay for educators compared to every other individual and every other workforce. So this is what I'm saying. What are we willing to try to revolutionize our education system? Because the fact is, the people who are in charge right now, this is not their priority. It's literally going to take 100% of us providing the right pressure in the right way in order to make this happen. And because my time is over, I'm going to leave you with that. Love y'all. Thank you. Peace out.
Alejandro Fuentes, everyone. Thank you so much, Alejandro. All right. We all know what time it is if you've been here before.
It's halftime.
It's halftime. So if you need a quick break, feel free to grab some water, head to the bathroom, etc. But everyone also knows that we like to do fun stuff during halftime here in Mixed Taste, and we have a couple of fun exercises for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is we have a special musical guest who will be joining us here for Mixed Taste, his first time. And we just had a conversation a few days ago, and I pulled him in very much at the last minute, and he was such a champ about joining us. And so I'm so excited. I'm excited because he is a professor at the University of Colorado, Denver, and the former concertmaster of the Boulder Philharmonic. And so I am super, super excited to welcome the absolutely incredible violinist, Gregory Ts Walker. So Gregory will give us a short response to Alejandro's talk, and then we will do a little exercise together. Amazing. Thank you so much, Gregory. Thank you so much. Okay, you just listened to the music. Now we're going to make the music. I would like to re-invite our wonderful Alejandro Fuentes back to the stage. Yes. Not only is Alejandro gifted with numbers, but he's also a great man with music. And I would love to know, Alejandro, would you like to put your teaching abilities to practice right now?
I would love to put my teaching abilities into practice. I'm out of practice, so gotta do it.
He's feeling rusty, so just be kind on him. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. It's kind of hard to see, but we're gonna split the room down the middle. So just here, you're on this side, or you're on that side. Does that sound good? Okay, cool. Sir Gregory Walker, would you give us a C, please? Ooh. All right, so this side you're gonna repeat with us. Oh, wait. Oh, your turn. Great, one more time.
With me.
Keep going, keep going.
Don't be shy, don't be shy.
Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So Alejandro talked about how it's really important to come together. And when we make music and harmonize, our hearts start to synchronize, our brainwaves start to synchronize, and there's nothing that brings a community together better than music. I am a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world alone. There is no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright land to which I go. And I'm going there to see my brother. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home.
I know bright clouds will gather me, and I know my ways are rough and steep, and the beautiful fields lie just beyond me, and I know my needs are rough and steep. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm only going over Jordan. I'm only going over home now.
Thank you, Alejandro. Oh. Thank you, Alejandro. Thank you, Gregory. Man of many talents. Very honored that he is here. So that was our intermission. Hopefully you enjoyed, got to use your voice. Yeah, super special. Thank you for doing that with us. So now it's time to get on with the show. On with the show, Shane. Talk like in the 50s, Shane. I'd like to introduce our next guest, who will be speaking and teaching us about trash art, but really so much more than that. His work lies at the intersection of fantasy and photography and combines everyday objects with shocking statistics. It has attracted the attention of corporations like Starbucks, Dell, and Nike, and has generated over 100 million views for causes such as plastics, electronic waste, and fashion pollution. He holds a Guinness World Record for the largest installation made from plastic straws, 168,000. And he created the centerpiece at the United Nations in Nairobi, Kenya, when the Global Plastics Resolution was successfully signed, the biggest resolution since the Paris Climate Accord. He is also a creative advisor for the Sustainable Ocean Alliance and the Ocean Plastic Leadership Network, and sits on the BIPOC People in Plastic Collective. Please give a rousing welcome to Benjamin von Wong.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Benjamin von Wong, and I'm an artist and an activist. When we say art, this is actually the kind of work that I create. I like to create work that ignites a sense of curiosity in people. They look at this and they wonder, wait, what am I looking at? And that gives me a chance to say, oh, actually, let's have a conversation about this. This over here is a photograph. It's a photograph of an art installation that I made inside of Vietnam. And the reason it's glowing is because we got these LED lights inside of this wooden structure. And we built this inside of a mall. It took about 2 weeks. And because I don't know how to build anything, we needed the help of a bunch of volunteers to come and support. And those little straws, those little things that make up the entire installation are actually straws. 168,000 that we collected over the course of 9 months with the help of volunteers all over the country to convert it into Guinness World Record art installation. So that is what I do. But today what I would like to talk about is not just what I do or how I do it, but I also wanted to talk a little bit about the person behind the work. So that's Ben, maybe not Von Wong. Because deep behind all of this work is something that powers the creation of my projects. And that thing is something I think we all share a little bit of. In my case, it's a fear of irrelevancy. So where does that fear come from? Well, let's go back in time just a little bit, because it's kind of funny. I started up growing up as a little bit of a walking stereotype. I did martial arts as a kid. I also played the violin for 10 years, go Asian parents. And I also happened to be good at math and physics. So really, just the trifecta right there. Growing up, it didn't really get any better. My dad was an engineer. I thought, I'm good at math and physics. What else am I going to do? I ended up as a hard rock mining engineer. And so I kind of had this complex where I was just like, man, I want to be different. I want to do something that I can be noticed and not just look like everyone else. So I ended up picking up a hobby, picked up a camera. That's also kind of stereotypical. There were a lot of Asian stereotypes at the time, the tourist photos. But when I discovered this, I actually found an ability to tell stories that were a little bit different. Growing up, was reading a lot of books, a lot of fantasy, and so I ended up creating beautiful things that were totally surreal that just came out of my mind. I'd find strangers who wanted to collaborate on something and pull projects together. This one was captured in Florida. The guy's beard is actually real. He plays like, what's Ollivander, the guy that sells the wands in the Harry Potter world? And then those horns were made of papier-mâché. So it was a really fun time where I got to suddenly meet all sorts of cool people. And it just so happens I was actually fairly good at it. So after a while, I quit my day job, 3.5 years of being an engineer. I quit my day job and very quickly found my place as an artist. This was one of my first viral projects. I decided to tie a model 30 meters underwater in a shipwreck in Bali. My parents were dragging me on vacation. I wanted to find something fun to do, and it just seemed like a really good idea at the time. So the day after I got my dive certification, we created this thing. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I had stumbled across a formula for success. We're back in like 2015 at this point in time, where clickbaits are all the jam. And when you say you're going to tie a model 30 meters underwater in a shipwreck in Bali, do you want to see the photos? People click on that. And so I was like, I think I found the formula for success. And so I finally felt like I could be seen. The work that I did felt like it mattered. And so I started creating all sorts of cool things. This one was tying superheroes on the edge of a 40-story skyscraper. That's actually Market Street on the bottom. She was tied down. We photoshopped out the harnesses. I went to the world's largest monastic library in Austria, and we tried to recreate a real-world Beauty and the Beast. And then I also started getting paid. This was a project that I did for a company called Ballantine's. They make whiskey. And they were like, we want to celebrate people who are living their dreams. So just go out and create something, create whatever you want. And I was like, all right, let's go to Tulum. Let's put this guy underwater. It's a toxic layer of hydrogen sulfide. And I just thought a cormorant fisherman would be a cool thing to do. So for a while, life was pretty good. You know, I was basically living the artist's dream. I think so many people spend their entire lives wishing they could make a living creating art that they want to do, and I was there for a while. But here's the thing with success. Like, I think, what's that, the 10,000-hour rule? Everyone says, well, if you become an expert at something, you give 10,000 hours and you're set for life. But that's only true if the environment in which you become an expert continues. And when you create for the internet is always changing. And so I was in 2015 earlier, now I'm somewhere around 2017, 2018. What happens? Well, this starts to happen. You know, we're all familiar with a little thing called Instagram, and you start wondering, why does everything kind of look the same? These things like these algorithms start coming out where they start realizing that it's actually a lot easier to generate clicks when things are familiar and easy that resonate. Right? It's almost like entertainment is prioritized so that we just keep scrolling mindlessly, looking at one similar thing after another, and our brains can turn off. But I think what I really like to do is not create more of the same, but create something that is different. And so I started to feel my relevancy slowly but surely slipping away. There was another thing that was going on at this point in time. It wasn't just the desire to be seen because I needed these likes, but I also started to wonder, well, what am I generating all of these likes for? If I'm just getting a lot of followers, good comments, what am I doing with that attention? And so I started trying to broaden my horizons. And so I was pretty dedicated to this idea that I wanted to be an artist. And I think of, let's take a moment and define art versus, let's say, entertainment. In my case, I like to think of art as vegetables, maybe. They're not always pleasant to eat, but they nourish your soul. Whereas entertainment is kind of like junk food. You can eat it all day long and just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, but it doesn't really nourish your soul. And I wanted to find a way to create art. And in addition, I wanted to create work that was just more relevant in some way, shape, or form that would touch people and move people. But I didn't know where to start. So I started watching a lot of documentaries, very depressing. And I started stumbling across the problem of trash. So trash is something, it's everywhere. And on this particular phase of my life, I had just come home to go see my sister. She was getting married. My mom had discovered a mermaid tail designer in Montreal, and I was like, oh, hey, I want to work with this person, but I need to find something impactful, or else this work is just going to be another cool fantasy project. And so I started looking online. This was right at the time where the Great Pacific Garbage Patch had just started coming to light. I think you guys all probably know it by now. And so I thought, well, why not put a mermaid that was like dying on an ocean? And so I took advantage of the fact that my entire extended family was in town to help me clean, delabel all of these plastic bottles, rearrange them into different configurations in order to create this series, Mermaid on 10,000 Plastic Bottles, called the series Mermaids Hate Plastic. And the idea was simple. I mean, if the average American uses about 10,000 plastic bottles a year, well, could we make a difference as individuals? I thought so. And so I started going around trying to do projects like this all around, and the more you learn, the more depressed you get. It kind of sucks sometimes. But I ended up in some really, really cool places. This was a project that I ended up doing in Cambodia. I had just gone to a TEDx talk. I heard another speaker there talk about how much resources the clothing we wear actually use. So a single cotton t-shirt uses about 2,500 liters of water. And there's a whole slew of problems when it comes to human rights issues and the abuses that are endured over there. And I just thought, wow, this is a project that I would like to do something with. So after the talk, I went up to her and I was like, I love what you're working on. Let me know if you ever stumble across a whole mass of clothing and you don't know what to do with it, because I would like to play with that. And I do this stuff all the time. I go up to people and I say, let's collaborate, and no one ever gets back to me. I don't know why. But she actually hit me up like 8 months later and said, like, hey, guess what? I found a factory in Cambodia. It's filled with abandoned clothes that have just been discarded in the 2008 crash. A lot of you guys stopped buying clothes maybe for a little while, and these factories shut down, and they left all these clothing fragments behind, and we're like, oh, can we take that? Can we use it to create something? And so we actually went through these bags of, like, they're kind of disgusting, actually, the clothes that were remaining, like rat-infested clothing, sorted them by color like you might set up a palette of paint, and started figuring out, like, what could we build? And so I thought, if the clothing that we wear a single t-shirt uses 2,500 liters of water, well, what would an entire closet look like? Probably a waterfall. And so we just went and we just thought through the different concepts. Well, the clothes that we wear, it affects the air that we breathe, the trees that are cut down, the fibers that are used. I mean, just all of these different things. Like, could we use art to create conversation around all these different topics, and use the adventure behind these amazing stories to get people interested? One other thing that I discovered was electronic waste. So electronic waste is the fastest growing waste stream in the world, actually. It's the fastest growing waste stream, municipal waste stream in the world. Less than 15% of it is recycled, and in it we have all these amazingly valuable metals. And so the same pattern occurred with my past work, which was, if you start doing weird enough things, at some point someone wants to pay you for it, or I just got lucky, one or the other. And this was a project that I ended up doing with Dell, which is the largest electronic waste recycler in the world. We went through their facility and just went through all of these different products and tried to think, what could we possibly create with this? Actually, one of the people that helped me on this project, Paul, someone over there, drove 15 hours from Colorado Springs just to come help out and hung out for a week. Anyways, these projects are phenomenal because they gather so many people who just want to participate. And in our case, we were thinking, well, what could we possibly do with all of these materials over here? I like to use familiar iconography in my work because I think that what makes someone feel something is a sense of familiarity. And so I stole this pattern from the opening scene of Blade Runner 2049, the solar panel arrays. And the whole idea of harnessing past technologies to power us into the future, I thought would be a pretty compelling thing. We recreated the interior of circuit boards using mice and Ethernet cables, and just got a bunch of these people to come and help out. And then you add like the final character into it, dressed a little bit like Tron, and now you have something that's completely unique and completely different. Through the power of art, for me, I find it so much more captivating to draw people into the conversation. It's non-prescriptive. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you, like, holy crap, look at this stuff. There's a lot of it. All these keyboards, all these circuit boards, all this stuff that is accumulating over time. What are we doing with it? How are we contributing to it? What do we want to do about it? And so that's been the journey so far. And it's been really cool. The work that's come out of projects like these have been amazing. And there have been challenges along the way. So rewind a little bit, the Instagram fad. Well, that has only accelerated. And so work like this that takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to do, despite the fact that my work seems to be getting better, despite the fact that my work seems to be gaining more meaning, it's becoming harder and harder to be noticed. Or like if every second 500 hours of video is being uploaded onto YouTube, how do you stand out in a space like that? Do you just cave in and just say, all right, we'll just do what everyone else is going to do? I don't know. So once again, my fear of irrelevancy sort of kicks in again, because for the work that I create to be relevant, it needs to be seen. And if I can't get people to see my work, then what do you do? This was the last project that I did over the pandemic. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 200 single-use plastic consumption has increased by 250 to 300%. All those takeout containers? Yeah. And so during the pandemic, I tried to create something that ideally would highlight the root cause of plastic pollution, which is plastic production, right? Like if a sink was overflowing with water, you'd want to turn off the tap, right, before cleaning up the mess. Right now, we're focusing on cleaning up the mess, but we haven't figured out how to turn off the tap yet. And every single year, year after year, despite the fact that all these projects I've done, all these people fighting to raise awareness, that awareness is an all-time high, but production equally at an all-time high, and it's frustrating. And so I thought maybe I could put my little art skills to use. I enlisted my family again. That's my mom dressed up as a construction worker. She's really short, so it makes the thing look really tall. It's kind of awesome. I got my dad. Love the beaches, and so seeing the beach get completely destroyed just felt like a little bit more visceral. And by the way, we clean all of these up. Sometimes I need to say it like on the comments on the internet, they get really confused. That's my dad over there looking really studly with his paddleboard. Paddleboard, once again, to show how big this thing is. And then this over here is actually my nephew in the yellow. He was born during the pandemic into a future that I'm kind of a little unsure about. And so this is the work that I was working on. And of course, there's the adventure behind how we brought this together with the same volunteers to collect the plastics, tie them together, build this thing, create some art, try to touch people. But deep in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? I don't know if it's going to reach as many people as it needs to. I don't know if I spend 9 months trying to put this whole thing together, is it actually going to matter? Because in 24 hours, it's going to be obsolete. It's not going to be interesting anymore. People like new things. And so I was really scared because I felt like even if this project was successful, I would still fail. Because the goal isn't just to create art. The goal is to move people to action. And for that to happen, it needs to spread. So what did I do? I decided, like I think any one of us who is really struggling would do, to ask for help. And I thought, well, if I can't do this alone, what if I asked others to come and support? So I took this symbol and I started reaching out to other artists and I said, hey guys, I created this symbol to get people to turn off the plastic tap. What would you do with it? And lo and behold, all these amazing concepts started coming back, concepts that I couldn't even have thought about. If you look the upper left corner over there, this guy created a miniature model around this thing, creating art in places that I could never go to myself. And it was so beautiful to see so many people actually use their audiences that they had cultivated through creating entertaining content to actually transform it into something that was a little bit more actionable. And then on top of that, I thought, well, if I just create this once, maybe it's not enough. Maybe it's also about going to the places where the decisions are being made. And so I ended up in Nairobi, Kenya, with Brenton, actually, where we created this project in front of 1,500 delegates from 193 different countries who came together to talk about what a global plastics resolution would look like. And this happened, by the way, right at the beginning of the Ukraine war, so you might have completely missed it because no one was paying attention to trash at the time. But this is actually probably the best news that we could have ever had. And so, my fear of creating something that wouldn't resonate actually drove me even further to try to create something that would matter. And how hilarious is it that something that is a towering monument towards my insignificance actually became the thing that everyone started taking selfies in front of? There's something kind of beautiful about that, right? Actually, it was so successful that other people started asking, could you recreate this in different places? And so now this one thing has now gone on to be recreated in different places and spaces. There are now 3 different versions traveling around the world, and other people are using this as an opportunity to talk about the issue. And is it enough? I don't know. But I think one of the most powerful things about this is that we live in a world right now where everything feels so insignificant. Every action feels like it doesn't really matter. But it's actually our collective fear of being irrelevant, of not knowing whether or not what we do that matters, that allows us to reach out to others, to ask for help, to bring us together. And indeed, change only happens when we work together, right? And so that fear that I feel, that you maybe feel from time to time, is maybe not that bad of a thing. Maybe it's an opportunity for us to reach out to others and work together. And so the big question now that I have is, what's next? And it's always like a big question, like, what do you do? I've been wondering, how do I increase the frequency at which I create work? I mean, these projects are great, and I want to keep doing them. But I also recognize that creating one project a year is just maybe not going to cut it. And so I've been kind of exploring and experimenting, trying to reach out to different artists for help to learn, like, what might I learn from other people? How might we collaborate together? So that miniature guy that created that little faucet, I went up to him and I said, hey, can I go and create an art residency for myself? Can we try to do something together? And I've been thinking that maybe miniatures are a really interesting way to get concepts out of the door at a more rapid pace. I don't know. I've been toying around with narrative stories. This is a last project that I ended up doing. It's a diorama made from 20 different pieces of paper to explain the concept of climate equity. This idea that when we think of climate change, we just think of a changing climate, but what does a changing climate actually mean? It means rising sea levels, it means more fires, it means droughts, and what do those droughts cause? They cause people to move and migrate, and so from the left side of the image, we have these floods that start sending people slowly moving across the world to invade the rest of the world, right? We can't contain climate change in one place. We have to let it spread. And so experimenting with different ideas and saying, well, what happens if I can use art to tell stories in a completely different way? I don't know. They're obviously different, but somewhere in here in this experimentation and this play lies some hidden next step, some hidden story, some hidden opportunity to collaborate with a whole bunch of different people in order to create something. And what I hope that looks like is somewhat of an activism studio. And I'm just going to leave it kind of like an open book because I don't actually know how I'm going to do this. I don't actually know how it's going to work. I don't actually know how it's going to be funded. But this whole talk was about saying, well, I don't know how to do something alone. So if you guys have any ideas, hit me up. I'm trying to figure out how to make this whole thing sustainable because I think art matters. I think stories matter. I think they have an opportunity to move people to action. And I do believe that together we can do anything we want to do. So thank you, guys.
Benjamin von Wong. All right, so you've heard the talks. Now you be the judge. It's time for Q&A. So get your phones out if you like to do that and to proffer a question. As we all know, mixed taste is really about connections. And so we encourage you to think about what sort of creative connections can you make between the two talks you've heard tonight. Once again, there is the QR code. If you don't have it, it's also in your program. And so at this point, I am going to re-invite Alejandro and Benjamin to join me on this wonderful stage. Welcome back. Okay, so I'll have my phone out here to be able to look at all of the wonderful questions that come through. And when we find one that is especially poignant, we will give you a nice gong. Thank you.
Hey, teamwork, look at that.
Asking for help. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see here. All right, we're going to start with a question from Bob. He says, Von Wong, you're experiencing job fulfillment that teachers are not. What would you change about teaching to make it more fulfilling and to help stop burnout?
Starting with the easy questions, man. How to make teaching more fulfilling? I mean, is there anything less fulfilling than teaching? I don't think fulfillment is what you're lacking. I think it's everything else. I don't know how to solve this problem, sorry. Nah, not something I know how to do.
I mean, if I were to answer that question, I would essentially say that though I would agree with you, it's not that it's not fulfilling, it's that people who are in these roles do not feel valued. But outside of that, what I would say is the arts, the programs that allow children to explore not only their creativity, but like get a little more physical, are what are needed more in the context of education. And if we could work with an educational system that allowed for this and put that as the ideal and epitome, more so than like scoring well on a test, I think we would be a lot better off.
Ben, could you scoot just a little bit closer to me? Awesome. I want to see your pretty face.
Hi.
Okay.
How's it going?
Mel asks, awareness is at an all-time high, and the problem also is at an all-time high for both topics, i.e. trash and environment, as well as teacher burnout. What advice do each of you have for each other to help cut through the noise?
All right.
I'll get a light on.
Advice that I would have for you, Ben, is essentially, I think that what needs to happen is there needs to be, like I said, more of a marriage in terms of creativity between what could be happening educationally and what's happening within the art world. And if we could create a partnership in which students were helping guide the work, for some reason that makes people care just like a tiny bit more. And I would love to see something where you create your studio and we have students coming in and out with the things that they see as issues and creating art alongside individuals like you to create for this potential change.
So creating blueprints, frameworks, inviting everyone to participate.
Absolutely.
I like that. Advice for you, I think when it comes to awareness being at an all-time high, and yet progress seems to be so slow, there is something called the Bill Moyers Movement Action Plan. He went ahead and studied how civil rights changes happened in the past, everything from getting smoking banned or seatbelts and so forth. And he realized that there's an actual graph that you can kind of graph out over, give or take, a 10-year period. And he made an interesting observation that for most of the life of an activist, they're losing. Because what you want and where you are, it's almost like a switch. And so you have these tipping points that just take forever to get to. And for most of the time that you're working at it, it feels like you're losing. And as you gain momentum, it actually feels like you're losing even more because public resistance also starts to rise. And so you reach this point where you're like, everyone cares about this issue. Why is nothing still happening? Why are some people still fighting? They're being assholes. And that is actually normal. And so what I would say is keep doing what you're doing, keep speaking out, keep fighting, keep staying hope, keep the hope highs, because that's eventually what happens.
Dang, I only needed one more year.
Must have gone for you. Emily asks, burnout can make people feel discarded, like trash. How can we rework our teaching environments so educators feel like the masterpieces they are?
I feel like it's so difficult to separate this from money within America, but you got to start there. You got to start with this idea of placing value on them by paying them what they're worth. Secondly, I would say there is so much that the average teacher, the average educator puts forth. Like literally, it's their heart, it's their mind, it's their body, it's their everything. And so getting to a point where a teacher, the average teacher, could give some form of feedback and they feel like there's actual actions taking place in order to make that change, that's what I think would need to happen. I think words need to be more than just words, and actions need to take place in order to make it happen. That was a very convoluted, not real answer, but enjoy.
Thank you for that admission. We've had several people ask sort of different versions of the same question. I'm going to go with this one, I think from Lene. How might you turn physical people, burnt out teachers, into art that leads to activism?
There are actually some really interesting human, like living art pieces that have been done. I mean, if anything, a lot of the photography that I used to do was the humans were the art, right? They were the models in the picture. So I'm sure we could do something.
I'll be your first model.
Hey.
Like I said, a lot of versions of the same question. Let's see here.
These are really good questions, by the
Yeah.
way. You guys are like
Yeah.
really crushing it.
Yes, great question from Catherine. Can you both talk about working through fear?
You just got to do it. I don't know what to say. I feel like every single day within the context of education, there's something that could potentially just rock your world. Whether it's a student story or something coming down from admin or something that is happening outside of the school context that is affecting you. And when you work through it with like empathy, at the end of the day, it'll work itself out. Because I think that people often forget, they try to find a solution without taking the human into the account. And I think that should just be reversed.
That's good. I think first thing I try to do is separate the fear and danger. They're two very different things. And so there's this sometimes a gut reaction like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do a talk tonight and I barely prepared for it. What am I going to do? But then what is the danger? The danger is nothing. It's going to be great. And then you kind of go through the motions, right? That's like an academic exercise. It doesn't change how you feel about something. You may still feel nervous and so forth. I go through different iterations of it. If it's something that I know I want but I'm scared of, I generally take that as a good sign. It means I'm pushing the boundaries of something that I haven't done before. If you were only doing the things you already knew how to do, how boring would that be? The other thing I try to do is I just try to call in as many people for help as possible. I talk, try to gain perspectives, so on and so forth. If no one can give me the answers I want, I sometimes just go hide and play video games for 3 days straight and not look at anything and just look back afterwards and see, well, what has survived my 3-day disappearance? And usually the most pressing things pop up and, figure it out.
That's a lie. He doesn't play video games. That's a lie.
Yeah, those moments, yeah. So, yeah, that's generally it. But I think the general sentiment of recognizing it, facing it, dealing with it, and pushing through with it, those are actually how probably some of the most meaningful experiences we've ever had all come to fruition. So, yeah.
Great. We'll get a couple more in. Esther asks, is activist burnout as frequent and critical as teacher burnout?
Oh, so depressing. I mean, when you're, I don't, do you want to take that one? You're also an activist.
You're already in. I'll go after you.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you're doing environmental work, it's really rare that you get good news. I mean, you might have like a small good news and then you have like this, oh, hey, EPA shredded, great. It's kind of disproportional most of the time. So yeah, I think it's true. I mean, we've maybe heard of eco-anxiety, climate anxiety. I think it affects the youth just as much, if not more, than it affects us. There's a sense of disempowerment. I think that it's constant. And as you speak up and as you fight the fight for the things that you care about, you start to find a lot of friends and allies, and you do have victories along the way. And I don't think that all battles are fought to be won. Some battles are fought because they need to be fought. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
I feel like for this answer, I reach into the area. I've been an organizer / activist within the educational realm, but more so within another one of my identities, the fact that I'm an undocumented individual. And I would say that the burnout is real within the realm of activism. And you just gotta I don't know how to say this without sounding bad, but like there's moments where I've like hated everybody. And the reason why I have is because I feel like I'm putting 1,000% of my energy in order to try and get you to recognize my freaking humanity. And unless it's present in the news, nobody cares. Yeah. And so it gets to the point where you get so frustrated with just like, this is straight up happened where I was all like, hey, would love for you to come out to the next protest. I'm just gonna be like speaking at this thing. And they were all like, yeah, but I got like dinner plans. And I was all like, cool, go enjoy your dinner plans. And I think what I'm trying to say here, I'll sum it up. Allow yourself to feel your feelings. Allow yourself to tap out, because especially when it comes to fighting against plastic, fighting against the injustices in this world, it's not a battle, it's a war, and you're gonna have to keep coming back time after time in order to make it happen. So give yourself the break, give yourself the mental capacity and stability to be willing to tap out so that you can come back when you need to.
All right, gonna get one last question, but there are a couple of just little ones here. Amy asks, can Ben sing too? Yes, he can. Christian asks, I'm an art teacher, can you guys come talk to my students? I'm gonna volunteer them and say yes, they can. hi@vonwong.com. Okay, so let's get the last question for you two to respond to. Ryan asks, aren't all teachers trash artists in the sense that they see beauty in what others may discard, both in artistic and sociological terms?
No. Look.
All right, well, good night, everyone.
Here's why I had that reaction. Because if you are considering your profession as an educator to be trash, if you are not taking the context of the literal lives that you have in front of you and seeing the humanity and the beauty that is within each child, everybody can see that. And if you can't, and you're choosing to view it from this negative lens, then you're in the wrong profession.
Hey. If I had a mic, I would drop it right now, but I don't.
But I get the point of the question. So I'll answer where it was going, and this is what I would say. I would feel that often governmentally, I guess like from the political landscape, it does feel that way. It does feel like we are the least of the least, because people would rather put money towards a war. People would rather put money in their own pockets. People would rather put money towards oil companies than they would the literal future, because that's what our students are. So, yes, in that sense.
Quick comment on this. I think the trash that I use is no different than the trash we produce. So we see what we choose to see, and we ignore what we choose to ignore. And so I think for everyone, that's something that we can all control within ourselves. It's really easy to look outside and say like, oh, why aren't these guys doing this? Or why aren't those guys doing that? We can also look and just see, well, what do I choose to see, and what am I choosing to ignore? And as part of that, you can make anything into art. You can make anything beautiful. You can make anything have as much infinite potential as it possibly could have, right? That's kind of the beauty of being human. So we all have that power. So just want to drop it on that positive note.
I think it's a great place to end. Thank you to both of you. Thanks to Benjamin, thanks to Alejandro. That was a super lovely Q&A. All right, friends, we are approaching the home stretch of our evening. And right now, it is prize time. Am I going to get a paper? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so each week we give a prize to the person who makes the best connection between the two talks. It's got that secret envelope right here. Okay. So this person was chosen by MCA Denver's digital producer, Dele Johnson. He chose his favorite question of the night, and the person who received it will receive actually 2 tickets to my show this weekend. I am doing an immersive African storytelling experience that invites people into a mythical world of narrative, music, and an exploration of identity. It'll be downtown at Understudy. So even if you are not in this envelope, we'd love to see you there. And actually, you know who took that photo? Benjamin von Wong. So thank you. Thank you, Benjamin. Making me look so good. Okay, so the winner tonight is Emily, who asked, burnout can make people feel discarded like trash. How can we rework our teaching environments so that educators feel like the masterpieces that they are? Yeah, Emily. So congratulations. Please reach out to programs at mcadenver.org, and hopefully we will see you this weekend, and hopefully I'll see some of you this weekend as well. Understudy Friday evening through Sunday evening. And I will actually have special guests who are improvisational orchestra musicians from Berlin who will be flying in to perform with us. And Benjamin von Wong will be filming it. It'll be a great time. The whole family, actually Alejandro will be there too. The whole family will be there. Okay, so now we come to our closing. And so I'm going to, at this moment, re-invite the wonderful Gregory Ts Walker and Alejandro Fuentes to join me. And I'm going to switch microphones. All right. We've just had a wonderful evening together. I hope so. I don't know. Did you have a wonderful evening? I did. So I would like to know, in a 1 to 3 word statement, or maybe just one word, what are you taking away from this evening, our lovely audience? And I would encourage you to think as specifically as possible. Instead of maybe like inspiration, like maybe it's a quote that Alejandro shared, or a term that Ben had, or even just a photo that you saw. Just feel free to sort of popcorn it out. Wait, fear of irrelevance?
Burn it down.
Burn it down. Fear of irrelevance. What else we got? Lean into it. Okay. Lean into relevance. Did you say underwater? What was that? Mermaids underwater. Okay. Anything else? Any final thoughts? 44%. They learned. Good job. Did I hear creative activism? Is that what I heard? Okay, amazing. So we're going to get a little musical collaboration going, and you should all know none of this is rehearsed whatsoever, and so this is literally all being created right before your eyes. So I will let Gregory start it off.
Dum, dum. There we go. Hope you enjoyed your musical interlude. Whether you're talking about art or trash or teachers, you gotta figure one thing out, and that's that we gotta burn it all down. Burn it all down.
You heard the man.
Burn it all down. Burn it all down.
So, it's burnout. It's the world getting hotter. Sometimes I feel a little lost, like a mermaid underwater. But we are stepping in, because we have to be heaven sent. I don't want to be a statistic. Let's throw out the 44%, because we have to unite here as a community. It is the place and streets. It's you to me. It's called unity. And so, yes, right now I'm saying this. We have to lead into community, into a fear of irrelevance, because we did it here with Alejandro, Gregory, all night long. We had myself, of course, my man, Benjamin von Wong. It was mixed taste. Sometimes we mix the ideas, and I'm saying right now, open your eyes and seeing it clear, because right now I'm seeing a vision of the future. It's vision. We have to unite with some beautiful activism. We have to storm the streets. We have to tell our stories. We have to raise our voice. We have to yell our glories, because we come together. We burn down the system. And I was like, no person leave behind. We don't miss them. So thank you so much for being here tonight, because you know it was beautiful. You sung with us out of sight. You learned about trash art, about being in the classroom. And I'm saying right now we connect in person in Zoom. So right now we will see you next time, because I've been feeling so good and I've been feeling sublime. So Denver, Colorado, mixed taste, this is the town. If I had to leave you in phrase, I say just burn it all down.
Burn it all down.
Thank you so much for being here. This has been a really magical evening. Thank you to the MCA, to DCPA Off Center, Alejandro, Benjamin von Wong, Gregory Walker. So incredible. And thank you to you, our audience, for being here tonight and being with us virtually. We so hope that we will see you next time. The topic next week will be on La Belle Époque and Jackie Robinson. And so I hope you take all the lessons, connect with your community, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.